What's going on, guys? Blake Fontana here. For those of you watching that are starting an online business or running an online business right now, you may already be starting to realize the importance of focus to getting that business to where you want it to go. Now, for those of you that are an action taker like me, I know that early on in my online business journey, when I was trying to figure things out and get my business off the ground, I was taking this approach of feeling like the more that I did, the more that I'd grow. The more that I said yes, the more that I took advantage of every client opportunity that came in, the more that I tried to do as much as possible in the time that I had, the more that I would move forward. But after staying in the same spot for a chunk of time, I quickly realized it's time to change something. And I actually came across this book early on in my journey at this time, Essentialism by Greg McKeown. Now, what Essentialism is really all about is, as you can see on the book, the disciplined pursuit of less. And at the core, it's really about stripping away the distractions, the projects that we feel that we need to say yes to, the clients that we feel that we need to say yes to, and doubling down on the few things that are going to drive us forward. And to me, when it comes to a topic like this, we need to be constantly reminded about the importance of this to make sure that we're not losing perspective and letting ourselves slip into our old habits. Because I know that me and my journey, although I made that shift to focusing on less, and that shift allowed me to hit my first six-figure year online, it was then when I was starting to see more success that more opportunities were coming up that I didn't think would ever come to life before. More opportunities for me to say yes to or to say no to. More clients wanting to work with me and having to choose to say yes or no to them. So not only is focus critical in the early stages, when we're in the mode where distractions are super easy to come to life and we're jumping around from one opportunity to the next, as we continue to grow, that really doesn't change, because as we build authority and we grow our business, we have more clients wanting to work with us. We have new problems that we're solving. We have new projects that we're considering, new ideas that we're considering pursuing as well. As a result, it's very easy for us to get back into the same mode that we were before, trying to do too much, saying yes to too many things, and staying in the same spot because of it. So since I just came off reading Essentialism for the second time, for those of you here that feel like right now you're a little bit overwhelmed, you got too much on your plate and a lot going on, up ahead in this video, I want to share with you my top 5 takeaways from Essentialism. There's a ton of takeaways that I uncovered within this through the notes that I took. But what I've done for this video is distill down what I feel are the 5 most important things that Greg mentions in this book, so you can take those takeaways, run with them, and start implementing them after watching this video here today. Takeaway number 1, understanding the difference between hyperactivity and productivity. So with us living in this uber connected world that we are today, with technology, social media, and instant communication, the ability to really instantly get what we want or ask questions and get answers when we want them, it's very easy for us to kind of get stuck in a mode of choosing hyperactivity over productivity. Now, what I mean by this is kind of like what I mentioned in the intro here. We, as humans, we subconsciously associate more work with more results. And we tell ourselves the more that we do, the more that we get out. The more hours we put in, the more output we see. And when we do this, although we're trying to do a lot, we don't streamline the efforts that we're doing, and we get much less out of the action that we're taking. So let's take the example of reading. Let's say you have 5 books in front of you right now. And we know that the 5 books, one of them is Essentialism. Let's say you have 4 other best-selling books in front of you. We know that amongst those 5 books, combined, they have more knowledge than one singular book or one book like Essentialism alone. Now, a hyperactive approach would be you get all 5 of those books in the mail and you're so excited to get into them that you do one of 2 things. You either are reading them back to back to back as quickly as possible, rushing through them to get them complete and say you did it, knocked it off, or you're starting one, reading 3 chapters, opening up another, reading 3 chapters, coming back to one, jumping to another, and trying to work your way through finishing all of them in different chunks. Either route that you choose, it's the hyperactive approach. Whether we're trying to read 5 books at once or whether we're trying to rush through 5 books separately, the fact is we don't have time to consciously think about what we're consuming in that book. We don't have time to take notes. We don't have time to uncover, learn, and take away takeaways like I'm sharing here in this video to really benefit from the material that we are consuming. So reading one of the 5 books, focusing on that one book and going all in with that book, taking notes, really digesting what you uncovered and learned, that's the Essentialist approach. And by doing this, we're actually allowing our brains to let that information set in, and we're benefiting much greater than if we were to try to read all 5 of those books in a month span. Which to me, in turn, all comes back to the Pareto principle, the 80-20 rule. If you have 5 books in front of you, focusing on the 20% or one book at a time is going to be a lot more beneficial for you than focusing on the 80% and trying to get through 4 books in a short period of time. Takeaway number 2, if it isn't a clear yes, it's clear no. Now, what Greg really talks about here is the importance of not letting half-hearted cues and the emotions take over our decision-making process and allowing us to decide based on what we feel is right or what we feel we should do or what we feel we need to do. You see, it's very easy for us to tell ourselves we need to do this thing, we need to do that, we need to say yes to this, we need to say yes to that. So rather than making decisions based on half-hearted cues and emotions around what we think is right or what we feel we need to do, instead we should set a clear criteria for us to make decisions from. And a lot of times this comes back to asking us very clear questions to help us step in and see what's the best move for us to make? Now, there's a quote that Greg shared in the book that I think really embodies everything that we're talking about here very clearly, and I want to read this off next, which is, applying tougher criteria to life's big decisions allow us to better tap into our brain's sophisticated search engine. Think of it as the difference between conducting a Google search for a good restaurant in New York City and best slice of pizza in downtown Brooklyn. So notice the specificity and the difference between those two requests and the example that you just shared in that quote. We can either go to Google and say best restaurant in New York City, and we're going to get a very broad outcome because of that search. Or if we know that we're looking specifically for pizza and that's what we want, and we're looking for the best pizza in the area, we're going to make that search wrapped around the food that we want to eat, and in turn the output and the response that we get as a result is a lot more specific and aligned with what we really want. And to me, this applies beyond just decisions that we're making in life. This applies to the software and tools that we're using in today's fast-paced world with AI, ChatGPT, all these things popping up. The way to get the most out of those tools isn't to just go and ask it everything and type in whatever thing that comes to mind. It's coming to it and being able to think consciously, and then from there deciding what are the questions that I need to ask it to give myself the perspective that I need to make the decision on my own. Not relying on this tool to answer it for me, but for me to get the perspective that I need to make the best decision for me. That's what this takeaway is all about. So, for example, let's say you're trying to choose a new path for your online business right now, and you're wanting to really focus more on what lights you up and building a business around that. But at the same time, you really want to get to consistent 10K months in your online business. Now, you may have an opportunity pop up just recently where maybe somebody was offering you to be an affiliate or to be a closer for them. They're going to give you commission. They're going to get you on the fast track to hitting your first 10K month. And although that's encompassing the one objective or one of the objectives that you want in hitting that financial milestone, it's important for us not to just say yes because of the money. It's important for us to think strategically about, hey, if I'm taking a strategic approach with my business going forward, making sure that I'm building this in a way that aligns with what I want, what I'm passionate about, and what my skills are, let's make sure that this opportunity that I'm saying yes to checks off those boxes. So some questions you may ask yourself is, what am I passionate about? What's my unique ability? What lights me up? Other question could be, what taps into my talent and my skill set? What are some of the best skills that I have built up through the work and the education and learning and the action that I've taken over these last few years that I can take and apply to other businesses or to other people to benefit them and in turn build my business off of it? And number 3, what meets a significant need in the world? Or what problems can I solve that are pressing right now that I can use my skills, solutions, and knowledge that I've built up to provide solutions to those problems for people and have significant impact? When we use questions like this, we're able to clearly see and give ourselves perspective to say, hey, you know what, this closer opportunity, this affiliate opportunity, although it crosses the boxes for me to make the money that I want, it really doesn't align with the values and the approach that I'm looking to take my business going forward that's going to make me happy long term. So passing on this opportunity now to focus on making moves with what I really want would be the best decision for me, rather than just saying yes because, hey, there's a chance for me to make the money that I want. One interesting thing that Greg points out in this book is his talk around how essentialists, folks that embrace this essentialist less is more mindset, actually have more opportunities to pursue than non-essentialists. Now, the reason that is, and the way that Greg illustrated it super clearly in the book, was that non-essentialists that aren't embracing what we're talking on here in this video today essentially get excited about virtually everything. And because they're so caught up and busy with jumping on every opportunity that comes their way, they have the opportunity to explore much less outside of that. They don't have the chance to take the essentialist approach and thinking critically about, hey, these are the opportunities in front of me. Which are the few that I can turn up and go all in on to get to where I want to go? You see, non-essentialists really can't even take the time to explore those things because they have so much on their plate and they're saying yes to practically everything that comes their way that they can't even think about that. And what this really comes back to is essentialists making the commitment to go big on a very few list of things, a very few list of projects, and going all in on those things, putting in their energy, their effort, their focus, their attention, knowing that in the long term, over the next 6 months to a year beyond, they're going to build something amazing through that focus that they distilled on that one thing. Versus the flip side, the non-essentialists, they're focused on 5 things throughout the year. And when you get to the end of that year, the progress that they made on any of those 5 things, it's much less than the person that went all in on the one thing. And a lot of what Greg really talked on in relation to this in the book is those of us here that are embracing this essentialist mindset, we need to create space for us to critically think. We need to understand that creative ideas and powerful thoughts don't come from us doing. I don't know about you, but when I'm in action mode, working through tasks on my computer, doubling down on tasks within a project and getting shit done, as a result, I'm so ingrained and focused on that thing that my mind can't really flutter and wander in a way that sparks creative ideas. For me, my most creative ideas, inspiration, and thoughts come through when I'm not actually actively working on a task or a project on my computer. In fact, I would argue that the majority of my creative ideas and thoughts never come from me when I'm sitting in front of a screen. It's when I'm going for a walk outside, reading a book, taking a shower, doing something externally where I'm actually letting my brain have space to think. And the only way for us as essentialists to get to that point of creating that space is to be willing to say no to more things. Because the non-essentialists are so busy running from one project to the next they've already said yes to, they don't have space, they don't have the opportunity to give themselves that space. As essentialists, we can choose another approach. We can choose to be conscious about what we choose to put our energy towards, and we can choose to give ourselves breaks within our day to allow us to have the space that we need to freely think, to critically think, and to creatively think about our future and about our next move. Takeaway number 4, the importance of setting very clear boundaries in your life. This has been a recurring theme in a few of these points up until this takeaway in the video, but this is one for me that I really resonate with because early on growing up in a family business, working customer service, as I took my foundation of work, skill, and experience and transfer that into my own business and my own ventures, I found myself picking up a few things that I didn't want to take with me from the past. And that was my mindset behind saying yes and people pleasing and feeling like I have to not let people down. Now, the first step for me in this was in order to create the business in the future and the life that I have now, I had to be willing to let go of things in the past within my social life that wasn't supporting that. They say you're the sum of the 5 people that you hang around with. And for me, it was less about being around the wrong people, but in turn, feeling like I had to say yes to old friends and spend time with old friends and do activities that really weren't supporting my vision and my journey going forward. So setting boundaries around that was the first step for me in actually creating separation from that previous identity and putting myself in a position to win as I started my online business. Now, although that was one initial challenge, the challenges only got more difficult as I found myself taking on more clients, serving more folks, and realizing that some of these traits that I possessed early on in my journey, especially within customer service, where I always felt like I had to please the people that I was working with, transferred into the work that I was doing in my online business. Of me not being willing to set boundaries with clients. Early on, taking requests at any which time of the hour. Letting them message me for a question when they have it. Being willing to answer that question on the spot as quickly as possible. And this is why boundaries are increasingly critical as you continue to grow your online business. Because if you aren't willing to set those boundaries will get crossed and you will get taken advantage of as a result of it. People will take advantage of your time. And when our time is becoming increasingly valuable, we have to be willing to set boundaries in our time. Otherwise, we're gonna end up doing all the things that other people want us to do and nothing that we wanna do for ourselves. And for me, it was really realizing whether it's work life, social life, personal life, it's okay to say no. It's okay to prioritize you. And giving yourself that permission is the first step to making this change. By far the most life-changing takeaway for me from this book, Essentialism, to me is the commitment to doing fewer things better. And to me, this final takeaway starts with you as you're watching this video, asking yourself, how many projects am I focused on right now? How many tasks am I putting my energy into? How is my focus distributed throughout my days and my weeks? Currently in my work. We can all find ways to do fewer things better, but I think the key in this is really embracing our ability to slow down to achieve greater results. Because sometimes we have to be willing to move slower to move faster going forward and create speed in the future. Intensity is super valuable, but if we're using intensity without having clarity, we end up just kind of running without any direction on where we're going. For me, my experience since reading this book 3 years ago to reading it again just recently, I've realized how much I've grown in my ability to be a leader within my business to my team, to my clients, and how much this shift of focusing on fewer things and doing fewer things better than most is what has allowed me to become a better leader, a better business owner, and a better entrepreneur. Not to mention it's the core of really what's allowed me to achieve what I have up until this point, because without focus over these last 3 years of more, I know without a doubt I wouldn't be where I am today. When we're doing fewer things, we can not only show up better for ourselves in our own work, we can communicate better to our team members, we can communicate better to others, our potential clients. Everything is a lot more clear as a result of it. What the Essentialist approach really allows us to do is to create a unified effort towards a particular objective, and when we start to make progress towards that objective, everything becomes a lot more fulfilling. You realize if you're trying to work on 4 projects at once, and even if you're making progress on those projects, because you're focused on so many things, it's much more difficult for you to see the progress and feel the progress that you're making. And in turn, it feels like, man, am I really moving forward with any of these 5 things? This is because the focus is off. When we're turned on one thing, we're so dialed in on that one thing, we can clearly see the gains that we're making. And in the end, it pays. So for those of you here that watched through the end, if there's one thing that I encourage you to take away from this video and start putting into motion right away, it's this mindset of doing fewer things better. Falling in love with doing fewer things better, embracing it, giving yourself permission to do so, and enjoying it. Because although it's going to feel weird to start for those of you here that are focused on a lot right now, when you do make this shift, not only are you going to see your progress grow much greater and quicker, you're going to feel a lot more fulfilled, you're going to feel a lot more aligned, and you're going to know with confidence that you're moving in the direction that you want to go. And with that point aside, that's a wrap for my top 5 takeaways on the book Essentialism by Greg McKeown. For those of you here that want to read this book that don't have a copy yet, I'll go ahead and drop the link to grab a copy of this on Amazon in the description below. But for those of you here that did watch through the end, I'd be curious to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, what's the favorite takeaway for you that I shared amongst these 5 today? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, your support means the world to me. When I make videos like this, it's to give back to you guys and to help give you guys new perspective to support you in creating a better life and a better business and a better future for you. So if this video helped you do just that, be sure to smash that thumbs up button, drop a comment with your favorite takeaway below. And if you haven't yet already, hit that subscribe button before you head out so you're not missing out on any future videos that we drop on the channel. Thanks again for watching, and I look forward to seeing you back in the next video very soon.